Welcome students. In the previous class in chemistry of first chapter, that is periodic table and electronic configuration, we have discussed the introductory part related with Bohr model and the electronic configuration and their nature. Today we are going to discuss the further part, especially the second and third page of our 10th chemistry chapter. So look at the board. Here we are discuss the electronic configuration by using the shells K, L, M, N. If the distance increasing from the nucleus, they are arranged like K, L, M, N. The energy of the electrons are increased, so the increasing order of energy of the shells are given. Then the electrons are filled according to the increasing order of their energy. Then the Bohr model discussed about the distribution of electrons in each energy levels or in each shells. The maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate in each shells are discussed. Now we are going through the further topic of that. There are some limitations for Bohr model, and after the consolidating that limitations, they are introduced a topic here. We are going to discuss the first subtopic of our chapter is subshell. Then what is subshell? Each energy level contain sub-energy levels. That sub-energy levels are known as subshells. Each energy level include or contain sub-energy levels. That sub-energy levels are known as subshells. That means we have studied about shells and we are saying that shell contain subshells. That shell contains subshells. Each shell have different number of subshells. That means the subshells are small letter. We are represented subshells by small letter S, P, D, F, etc. Okay, S, P, D, F are the subshells, or otherwise we can call them as sub-energy levels. We are saying the shells are known as energy levels. Each energy level contain sub-energy levels, or each energy levels have sub-energy levels. That sub-energy levels are otherwise known as subshells. So we can know that each shell contain subshells. So the shells are K, L, M, N, and the subshells are S, P, D, F. According to their shape and nature, they are represented by the letters S, P, D, F. Then you want to know that each shell, the shell number and the number of subshells are equal. The shell number and the number of subshells are equal. The shell number and the number of subshells are equal. That implies, that is K, it is the first one. L shell second, and M is the third shell, and N is the fourth one. Okay. K shell is the first shell. The first shell contain only one subshell. It is S subshell. K shell is the first one, and the first shell have only one subshell. That means number of shell number and number of subshells are equal. So the first shell contain only one subshell. It is S. L shell, it is the second shell. So the second shell contain how many subshells? The second shell contain two subshells, that is S and P. S and P. Then M shell. You know that the subshells are S, P, D, F. S, P, D, F. This is the increasing order of their energy also. S have the least energy, P lowest energy, then D greater energy, and F the maximum energy. Like that. That is the increasing order. Then first shell contain only one subshell. It is S. Okay. Then the second shell contain two subshells, S and P. Clear the idea. Now the third shell, that is M shell. How many subshells will be there in the third shell? By knowing these things, how many subshells are there in the third shell? Yes, the third shell, that is M shell, contain three subshells. Which are the three subshells? The three subshells are S subshell, P subshell, and D subshell. These are the 3 subshells included in the M shells. And the fourth one, N shell, the fourth shell is the N shell that contain 4 subshells S, P, D and F. Okay, the first shell have only one subshell, that is S. The second shell that contain 2 subshells. Second shell contain 2 subshells S and P. Third shell contain 3 subshells S, P, D. And the fourth one, N shell, that contain 4 subshells S, P, D and F. Okay, you clear the idea? The S is the common subshell in all shells. S is the common subshell. Ella shellilum undu nartham. Okay, S is the common subshell for all shells. Then it is not easy to write. Simply if you write S, we cannot know in which shell that is included. If you write S, we don't know whether the K shell contain the S subshell, L shell contain the S subshell, and M and N also contain the S. So to identify the subshell, in front of the subshell, you want to write the shell number. That means, if the S subshell we are considering from the K shell, you just write the shell number. That is, the shell number is 1. So we can write what? 1S. We read it as 1S. S subshell in the first shell. Is it possible to write 1P? Is it possible to write 1P? No. Because the K shell contain only one subshell, that is S. So it is possible to write what? 1S. There is no P subshell, so it is not possible to write 1P. Second shell, that is L shell. L shell contain 2 subshells S and P. So we can represent them as 2S and 2P. 2S and 2P. What this implies? 2S. S subshell in the second shell. So that is definitely we are represented from which shell that subshell is included. Is it possible to write a 2D there? No, because the second shell contain only 2 subshells S and P. So it is possible to write 2S and 2P. It's not possible to write what? 2D. Then the third shell, that is M shell. M shell contain 3 subshells S, P and D. So we can represent that as 3S, 3P and 3D. 3S, 3P and 3D. Then in the fourth shell, that is N shell, that contain 4 subshells. How can you write it as 4S? S subshell in the fourth shell. Then what is 4P? P subshell in the fourth shell. 4D. D subshell in the fourth shell. Then 4F. F subshell in the fourth shell. These are the representations of the subshells. The subshells are S, P, D and F. And the common subshell in all shell that occurs the S subshell. And okay, instead of K, rather than K that contain L, M, N, that L and M, N contain P subshell. So it is not easy to simply write S. It's not possible. For the definite representation, we are write the shell number along with the subshell. So we are represented like this. Okay, now again we are going to discuss the maximum number of electrons possible to accommodate in each subshell. Each shell, as we know, in each shell how many electrons are possible to accommodate. Now we are going to discuss about the maximum number of electrons that are possible to accommodate in each subshells. Okay, so the subshells are, we know again, K, L, M and N. The maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate in K shell, it is 2. Here it is not the shell number, the maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate here, it is 2. In L shell, the maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate is 8. In M shell, the maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate is 18, and the N shell, it is 32. Okay, the next thing, we know that the K shell contain only one subshell. The K shell contain only one subshell, which is that is S subshell. Okay, the S subshell, The K shell, we are saying already in 9th standard and to the previous class, we are saying that the K shell contain 2 electrons. The maximum number of electrons that are possible to accommodate in K shell, it is 2. But now we have studied that each shell contain what? Sub-energy levels or subshells. So exactly the electrons are filled in the subshells. That is our new idea or new concept. Okay, the electrons are exactly filled in the subshells. So K shell have only one subshell, it is, yes. The maximum number of electrons possible to accommodate in K, it is 2. That's why we are saying that the 2 electrons are accommodated in the S subshell. That is, the maximum number of electrons possible to accommodate in S subshell, it is 2. The maximum number of electrons possible to accommodate in the S subshell, it is 2. That is, again, K shell, the maximum number of electrons are 2. Then the K shell contain only one subshell, it is S. And the K contain maximum number of electrons, 2 are filled. The 2 electrons are filled exactly in the S subshell. Then again, the L shell is the second shell. The second shell contains 2 subshells. One is S and the second one is P. Okay, S subshell and a P subshell. Okay, S subshell and a P subshell. The S subshell and P subshell, how many electrons are possible to accommodate in these two? Is it possible to write 4 and 4? നമ്മുടെ വീട്ടിലൊക്കെ അപ്പം ഉണ്ടാക്കിയിട്ട് ഒരു വെക്കണമാതിരി 4 അറിഞ്ഞ് ഒരു വെച്ച് കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റുമോ? അതല്ല. So listen carefully. The maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate in S subshell, it is 2. Then the balance electrons, the balance of the electrons is there, balance electron 8, 2 is filled here. Then how many electrons? 6. So 6 is the maximum number of electrons possible to accommodate in the P subshell. The P subshell, the maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate that, it is 6. In the M shell is the third shell that contain S, P and D subshells. The maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate there, it is 8. And now we know that the maximum number of electrons possible to accommodate in S subshell, it is 2. And the P subshell, maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate is 6. Then how many electrons are left there? 6 plus 2, 8 is completed, and 18. So the D subshell, the maximum number of electrons are 10. The last one, N shell. The N shell contain 4 subshells. They are S, P, D and F. The maximum number of electrons filled in the N shell is 32. The S subshell contain 2 electrons. P subshell contain 6 electrons. D subshell contain 10 electrons. How many electrons are there? 10 plus 6 plus 2, 18 is completed. We have 32. The balance, it is 14. So maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate in the F subshell, it is 14. Students, please listen. You want to study the maximum number of electrons are possible to in each subshell. It is important in this chapter. Again, we are conclude here that maximum number of electron that are possible to accommodate in each subshell. The maximum number of electrons possible to accommodate in each subshell. That's, you know, S subshell, the maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate 2. In P subshell, the maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate, it is 6. In D subshell, the maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate, it is 10. And in F subshell, the maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate, it is 14. That can be calculated by using this maximum number of electrons in each shell. This you want to study and you want to write in your notebook and study well. The maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate in each subshell by using this. Like electronic configuration, shell electronic configuration we are writing. That means I just simply saying the atomic number of chlorine, it is 17. We are writing the electronic configuration like 287. This is shell electronic configuration. The next topic we want to cover here is subshell electronic configuration. How the electrons are distributed in each subshell. So distribution of electrons or filling of electrons in subshells according to their their energy order is known as subshell electronic configuration. To write the subshell electronic configuration, we want to know the increasing order of the subshells. How the KLMN is the increasing order of energy of shells. Like that, we want to know the increasing order of the subshells. And by using that, we want to write the subshell electronic configuration. The next topic we want to cover here is related with the subshell electronic configuration of elements. Up to 36, we are up to atomic number 36. We are writing the subshell electronic configuration. For that, you want to take your notebook and write the electronic configurations. The next class, we are discuss the subshell electronic configuration of elements. The subshell electronic configuration of elements. Today, we completed the maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate in each subshells. So, all of you write the maximum number of electrons possible to write in the each subshells, and the maximum number of electrons are possible to accommodate in each shells, etc. and make a brief note of this portion. Thank you, students.